And what about Mum in all this, too? Because she was a remarkable girl. Now, she lived to see your success. Yeah. In fact, she had the fruits of your success because you bought her a house.
Yeah, yeah. She got everything that she needed, eventually. But, I mean, she was a child lady. It's very funny, because her forewoman in the child lady business was Mrs. Nellams. Oh. You see? And Mrs. Nellams, and my mother's name was Mrs. Micklewhite. And they're both talking to each other, and we were both famous, but our mothers wouldn't give up the jobs, you know? And I was begging my mother to give up child lady, because, you know, I was already a millionaire. My mother's cleaning floors. I'm saying, for Christ's sake, give it up. She said, I'll have nowhere to go in the morning. So Mrs. Nellams and Mrs. Micklewhite, my mother, are talking, and Mrs. Nellams said, my son's a famous rock and roll singer. And my mum said, oh, really? My mum said, my son's a famous actor. And Mrs. Nellams said, what's his name? She said, Maurice Micklewhite. So I never heard of him. So, my mother says, what's your rock and roll son's name? She said, Terry Nellams. So my mother came home, she said, you ever heard of a rock and roll singer called Terry Nellams? I said, yeah. I said, it's not his real name. That's his real name. She said, who is it? I said, Adam Faith. Adam Faith's mother was my forewoman. My mother's forelady in the cleaning. That's the two of us, Terry Nellams and Maurice Micklewhite. I said, Mum, you're nuts. But she was very funny. I'll tell you funny, when in the 60s, she said, what's all this about miniskirts and all this? She said, what's going on? I said, have you seen a miniskirt? She said, no, what's it? So I said, Saturday, I'll take you down to King's Road. And we walked down to King's Road. I said, this one, it's the first one. Here's one now. And this girl walked along with a mini up to here, you know. So she goes by, and my mother looks at her. So we walk on a bit, and she never said a word. So I said, well, what do you think, Mum? She said, if it's not for sale, you shouldn't put it in the window.